Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be making a basic diplomacy video for Civilization 5 with the Vox Populi mod. Right now I'm using the version before the most recent updated version, which was April 20th, simply because I'm using a mod pack and I need to figure out how to update within the mod pack. I'm sure it's not too hard, but I'll get around to it. So I'm going to be covering basic diplomacy in this video, and that's going to include the basic relationship levels, discussing with the AI, such as discussing declaring war, declaring friendship, all that. And I'm going to discuss trading with them and some basic interactions with them. So if you can give me a thumbs up, that'd be really great. Give me a thumbs down if you don't like the video, of course. Subscribe if you can, that'd be really awesome. And one last thing that I want to mention is that in this video, I'm not going to be using so much just clips from the specific parts like I did in my barbarian video, because that's going to be kind of boring with the diplomacy screen. So I'm just going to be doing some voiceover over some just gameplay of myself, and I'm going to just show little screenshots of the diplomacy screens that I want to be talking about for about 5 seconds. So that way you guys get an idea of what this video is going to be like. So as I said before, give this a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe if you really like it. So let's get on with the video and the relationship levels. Alright, so what I want to talk about first are the 7 relationship levels that you can have with a opponent AI. So the first of them would be neutral, and the AI can start with this trait, and this is kind of considered the default trait. So this is when they don't have any opinions formed about you, they're not positive towards you, they're not really angry towards you, it's just very default. They're not going to give you any special deals, they're not going to give you super unfair deals. And next is friendly. So friendly, they can also start with this. However, it's slightly less likely. It's just kind of based on what the flavor of the civ is, I guess. And this, basically, they can become friendly when they like your diplomatic actions, and then they're more likely to give you fair deals. However, they can also disguise themselves as friendly. So they'll be saying they're friendly, but they're actually planning on backstabbing you. How you can figure this out is if they're saying that they're friendly towards you, however, they will not give you any fair deals, and they just generally act kind of distant from you. So they can be either very friendly or they can be very backstabbing. Friendly is kind of a deceptive trait. Next we have the guarded trait. And guarded is when they don't really like you. They can kind of start with this trait. It's slightly less common than neutral or friendly, but they can start with it. What usually leads to this trait is if you're doing some warmongering, or you're like a little bit of warmongering, or you're expanding a little bit too close to them, they just don't like it. Or if you're screwing with one of the city-states, they won't like it. They're not going to be super pissed at you. They're just going to be a little bit guarded, and they will just generally give you less fair deals, and they'll be much less inclined to trade with you, like open borders or anything. And this trait can lead to hostile if they keep on being provoked. So what is hostile? Hostile is when you're repeatedly doing diplomatic actions to anger the civ, and then they become a lot more likely to war than any of the others. So here they're being openly aggressive towards you, they're telling you to back off, and you're not doing that. So they become hostile, and then they can become likely to declare war on you if you keep on annoying them when they're hostile. One thing that can lead to hostile is when they denounce you, or just if you keep on pissing them off. So don't do that unless you're looking for a war and you don't want to be declaring war. The 5th diplomatic trait is the afraid trait, and that is when their civ is weaker than your civ. It's a relatively rare trait to have. I don't really see it that much, but it definitely happens. So it's when they're weaker than your civ, and they don't really have that many allies, and then therefore they're afraid of attack because they have a weak army and they don't have any allies to back them up. So when the civ is afraid, it's a lot easier to demand stuff from them and to exploit them. So you can take all the money from them and they can't do anything because they're not going to attack back, and they're worried that you're going to attack them if they don't give you what they want. So here is one of the few instances where demand is actually a very effective tool. The next trait is denouncing. So denouncing is just the next turn or two after they denounce you, and it's big in red on their screen. It says denouncing, and this is when they really don't like you. They denounce you. They tell the entire world that you're a threat and that they don't like you. and this, after a few turns, it leads to them being guarded or hostile. The last trait I want to talk about is war. So war isn't technically a trait, except it is a status that you're at with them where you can enter the territory with 0 special healing bonuses like you would have in your own territory. You can attack their units and their cities, obviously, and you can capture their stuff. You can pillage their things, and they're at permanent negative modifier until the war is over, in which case that can be reworked, but it's not for sure. So when you're at war, I just want to let you know, beware of the warmonger penalties, because if you do capture a bunch of cities while you're at war with one civ, then regardless of who started the war, there's going to be some warmonger penalties, and the other civs will become more guarded towards you, as I mentioned before. Right, so there I talked a little bit about declarations of friendships and denouncing an enemy AI. So before I want to get into that, let me just explain to you how to even get to the diplomacy screen for anyone who might be new and wanting to know. So one way is you can go to the top right of the screen, click on the little globe, and then click on the name of the player that you want to have a diplomatic action with. Second way is you can click on one of their cities, it'll bring you to the diplomacy screen. And then the third option is to press F4 and then click on the leader's name that you want to interact with. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about declarations of friendship and denouncing. So to get to that part, you need to move down to the Discuss tab and then click on it, and then you're going to have 2 options of either friendship or denouncing. So what is the declaration of friendship? So if you declare friendship, if you propose to declare friendship, it will never have a negative diplomatic bonus against you if they refuse. So if they refuse, they'll just be like, nah, we're not doing this, and then nothing's going to happen, except that you know that they're not your friend. However, if they accept, you get a positive relationship boost with them, and a positive relationship boost to any of their mutual friends, letting them know that you're also one of the civ's friends. It kind of creates little factions. And then you get a little negative bonus to the civ's enemies. So say you're friends with one civ but they don't like another civ, they're not going to necessarily hate you for it, but it's one of the many ticks that's going to bring their opinion of you down a little bit. And last thing I want to say about friendship, well, 2 more things I want to say about friendship is, 1, it lasts 50 turns. So after those 50 turns, you either need to renew this declaration of friendship, or you just need to let it slide and forget about it. And the second thing that I want to say is, in the Vox Populi mod, you can revoke friendship. And while this will make a negative impact towards that player, what it allows you to do is revoke the friendship, and then even that turn, you can declare war on the civ, and you won't get a attacking your allies bonus, well, negative bonus with other civs. So that's a nice little thing to have. However, it is going to make that civ pretty angry at you for revoking the friendship. Right, so now that we got friendship, let's talk a little bit about denouncing. So denouncing is when you declare them as your enemy to the world, and then you will receive a negative relationship boost with them, and you will get a negative relationship boost to any of the civs that they have a declaration of friendship with. However, you will be getting a positive bonus to any other civs that have a negative opinion of them and have denounced them. However, the one big difference between denouncing and friendship, while they both last 50 turns, a denouncement cannot be revoked, but it just expires after the 50 turns. So be pretty careful of who you denounce, because it will make them pretty pissed. You'll get a big negative relationship boost, and they won't want to be as willing to trade with you. So now let's talk about the rest of this Discuss tab. So the next part I want to talk about is the Shall We Declare War Against tab. So I recommend to not use this tab, because it can give a negative relationship boost to the civ if they refuse to declare war on someone alongside you, and they also might go snitch on that on you to the civilization that you propose to declare war against. So instead of suggesting to declare war in the Discuss tab, I recommend to go into the Trading tab and see what they will trade for war, because that's a lot safer and you're not going to risk a negative diplomatic boost. Next thing is the Don't Settle Near Us. So that's when they start to settle near you. You can warn them to stay away. You'll get a little negative boost. Oftentimes they ignore it. However, if you're more powerful than them, I guess they make a promise to stay away, and then they stay away. However, they do ask, the AI will ask you to not settle near them a lot. And if you settle near them, if you promise not to ever settle near them again, but you do end up settling near them again, you're going to get a larger negative boost against them than if you just promise to, than if you just ignore them and say that you're going to settle where you want. So if you do plan on settling them near them in the future, and you, sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit. If you do plan on settling near them in the future and they ask you to not settle near them, just ignore them. Say, no, we're going to keep on settling. You're going to get less of a relationship negative against them than if you do it the other way where you promise. Same goes for the stop spying and stop spreading religion tabs, which sometimes appear. Now, the last part in the discuss tab that I want to discuss with you guys is the share intrigue part. So this is when you have a spy in some other civilization's capital, and for example, they say that they're sending units to declare war on this one civ. If you share this intrigue with them, they'll be grateful for you. They'll be grateful to you. You'll get a little relationship boost with them, and they'll be happy and ready for the war against them. And more importantly, the civ that you snitched on will never know that that you snitched on them. So that's a pretty safe way to gain a little relationship boost with any civ. Right, before we move on to the trading tab, let's talk about some of the Civilization 4 diplomacy features moved into the Vox Populi mod that are not in the unmodded game. So in no particular order, these are map trading, technology trading, vassalage, and some not in the trading tab are sharing opinions, requesting help, and generous offers. So map trading is when you sell your world map to once you guys discover military science, and the cost goes up based on how much terrain you discovered and how good of terrain it is. So if you only discover a bunch of ocean, that's going to be a lot more worthless than someone who's discovered a bunch of civilizations and all of their territory. Technology trading is when both of you discover scientific theory, you can sell your technology to other civilizations, and the cost is basically, it's found out by how much more science this civ has to put into this technology. So it's based on their current science output and how much the technology costs. So this technology trading can be pretty powerful and a very good tool if you use it right, because the technologies are worth a lot of resources. Next, vassalage, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's where you enslave your you force your enemies that you defeated into servitude so that you don't have to capture them, and instead they're basically a puppet state for you, where they give you taxes and units in return for protection. Very good deal, and it often happens at the when you're creating a peace treaty with a civilization that you destroyed in a war, or if you're much more powerful than the civilization that you could take over, I guess. Now for the stuff that's not in the trading tab, we have sharing opinions, where the AI will share their opinion of another AI with you if they think that you're a good ally. We have the requesting help, which is which replaces demand. For when you're friendly with a civilization, you can ask them for help, and they will sometimes provide that help with you. So if you need a little bit of extra gold, you can just ask, hey, I need 30 gold. They might give it to you if they're feeling friendly, and you're good. You don't have to demand it from them, or you don't have to trade if you have nothing to trade. And then generous offers is when the AI just comes up to you, offers you a luxury or some gold if they notice that you're falling behind in happiness or money-wise. The AI just, if they're your friend, they decide to come up to you and they help you out a little bit. So that's it for the Civ 4 diplomacy features. Now let's move on to the trading tab. Alright, so let's talk about this trade screen. I already made a recording on this take once, and it took way too long, so I'm going to have to go very brief on this because I don't want this section to take 15 minutes like it did before. So let's get going. The gold part is where you trade a lump sum of gold, and in order to trade this lump sum of gold, you need a declaration of friendship with that civilization that you're trading with, unless if it's part of a peace deal. Gold per turn is basically where you trade a set amount of gold per turn to another civ in exchange for, well, gold per turn plus some other thing in exchange for anything. So it's kind of just another bargaining chip like gold is. Luxuries, you can only trade for unique luxuries, and each of these unique luxuries provides one happiness to you. Nice little way to dig yourself out of a rut if you're in a small little happiness rut. And one thing I noticed that's pretty funny actually is that the opponent civs, they give you much worse deals if they don't like you. It's really just ridiculous. I'm gonna try to throw up a clip on the screen about that because I've seen some situations where it's absolutely ridiculous and hilarious. Strategics. Strategics, as opposed to luxuries, you do not have to trade for unique resources. If I have 2 horses, the person I'm trading with has 2 horses, I can buy their 2 horses and I will have 4 horses afterwards. Trading one at a time does yield a higher gold amount. However, this is really min-maxy. I don't generally do this. And it's not a huge gold difference unless if you're really struggling for gold, in which case just do that. Try trading for one at a time and note the difference compared to when you're trading 2 at a time, 3 at a time, and so on. And another important thing to note with strategics is that you can trade for a strategic resource that you do not have researched yet, such as if my opponent has aluminum, I don't have aluminum researched yet, I can still trade for the aluminum and have aluminum in my, inventory. Techs. So you can trade techs when they're not yet discovered by the other civ. Tech trading begins at Scientific Revolution, and these techs are typically worth a lot in trades. So you can trade them for a lot of money, for some Congress votes. You can really use them as a pretty hefty bargaining chip later in the game. Congress yay or nay votes are pretty self-explanatory. You trade them some gold or something pretty nice that they want in exchange for a yes or a no for a particular vote in Congress that you don't want passed or that you do want passed. Maps. So when you trade for a map, what you get is you are shown everything that they have ever explored in the past. However, you do not get it in active view, you get it in the shadow. However, it is not in the clouds, like the, the first layer of Fog of War, as I like to call it. So you trade for those maps, you get everything they ever seen. You do not get to currently see what they see. And this means that you do not make contact with any unknown civs or city-states that you might see inside of these revealed maps. Another thing to note about maps is that they are either very expensive, like extremely expensive, or the AI is just kind of bugged and never trades it, because in any of my games I've never been able to trade for a map with the AI. Now let's talk about embassies, open borders, and these other treaties. So embassies are discovered at writing, and it permits treaties such as open borders and defensive pacts. And what it does is it reveals the capital, but it only reveals it in shadow, like trading for a map would. Embassies are cancelled by war or time limit, and they can be traded for 1 gold per turn, which is pretty useful in the early game because it can really help you out of a rut in your economy. Now for open borders requires an embassy, and it allows free passes through the civilization with whom you traded through the territory for 50 turns, which changes based on the game speed. Open borders allows for full healing as if in your own territory, which can be very, very useful for wars where your opponent does not have open borders with this civilization. So you're going to get the healing bonus and they're not allowed to enter that person's territory. Pretty nice. And open borders, as with all other trading, provides a relationship boost towards that civ and a tourism boost towards that civ. And the units are moved immediately out in case of a war. And one more thing to note about open borders is that they can be one-sided, where one civ has open borders with another, but that other civ will not have open borders with you. So that can be pretty nice. You can trade just like a lump sum of gold or some gold per turn for open borders if you don't want them in your territory. Defensive pacts. So a defensive pact requires embassy and the chivalry technology. It lasts 50 turns, and if one civ it has a war declared on it, then the defensive pacts come into play, where any civilization plus the city-states that are allied with the civilization in a defensive pact go to war against the attacker. A defensive pact is cancelled if one civilization declares war on another. So if one civilization is the aggressor, the defensive pact no longer works because it is a defensive pact, it's not just a pact. And another important thing to note about defensive pacts is to avoid large chains of defensive pacts, because if one civilization, let's say, let's call it France, is declared war on by another, let's say Poland, and both have a defensive pact with you, then you go to war with France, even though you were friends and had a defensive pact with them, and that means that France is going to be pissed with you, and Poland is going to be pissed with you because you declared war on your friend, and they're going to be like, oh no, we're your friend, are you going to attack us too? So just avoid that because it can have some pretty nasty diplomatic repercussions. The final treaty I want to talk about real quickly is the research agreement. So a research agreement is available after education, it lasts for 30 turns, and it costs 200 gold at first in the medieval era, and this cost increases as you advance through the eras. The bonus that you get from a research agreement is you get 50% of the median science value for all tech that a player can currently research. So let's say that you can only research one tech, just for simplicity's sake, and that one tech is worth 1,200 beakers. So at the end of the 30 turns, you're going to get the median science value for that one tech, and that the 50% of the median science value is 600 beakers, so you're going to get 600 beakers towards that technology. Now, that's very simple. Just scale that with the other technologies that you're available to research, and that's how a research agreement works. And when you're trading research agreements, be wary of civs working towards a science victory, as it can help them advance towards one. Alright, so now we have vassalage. So vassalage is when you enslave another civilization that you have defeated or that voluntarily becomes your vassal. And so when they're enslaved, they pay you a monetary tribute. It could be up to 25% of their gold income, so you can take up to 25% of what they make in their gold. And this vassalage has to last at least 10 turns before they can stand up and revolt against you. The next option under Become Vassal is Liberate Vassal, where the civilization, if they own any vassals, you can trade with them to have them liberate their vassals. Sometimes useful if you don't want them to have any vassals, you can just trade them a few things, well, some pretty nice things, and it works out. Next, we have cities. You can use your cities as a bargaining chip. However, I will have you know that in the Vox Populi mod, the AI is not nearly as ready to trade cities as in the unmodded game, where they will trade for your crappy cities very, very happily. In this game, they will not take those crappy cities. They actually make sure it's a good city, and they are much more quote-unquote smart about trading the cities. Last thing on the trade list is the declare war and make peace functions. So I always recommend that you use the trade section for asking if a civ is going to declare war on another with you, because if you don't, you don't face any negative diplomatic repercussions here if they say no, and you can bribe them to declare war. It just works out a lot better, and you're not going to piss anyone off if you do it over here until they declare war, in which case the civilization that they declared war against is going to be pissed at you for bribing them. But again, that's not as big of a deal as them telling everyone that you were trying to declare war on someone else and snake them. So now onto the last topic before I end the video. So I just want to show you guys how each of these modifiers works. So I'm going to throw up a screenshot of the chart from Carl's Guides that I found, which shows the consequence of each diplomatic action. This only applies for the regular game. I couldn't find any for the Vox Populi game. However, basically the way it works is the larger the number, the more of a diplomatic impact the specific action has. For example, war and liberation are going to have a very, very large diplomatic influence, whereas open borders or embassies are going to give a very small diplomatic influence. So I'm just going to pause the video for a few seconds, and you guys can pause and look at it as much as you want. Okay, so that's it for our basic diplomacy video. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Be sure to subscribe if you really liked it, and comment below on any inaccuracies I may have made, because I am not too perfect at making sure everything is right, as seen by my previous barbarian video. But yeah, just give me a like, comment, and subscribe, please. It'd be really nice to get some more visibility for my future videos, so that more people can actually see this and it contributes more to the community. And just tell me what you want me to create in the future in terms of these guide videos. So just peace out, guys. See you later.